Let's be real, life can get tough to say the least, and especially without someone to talk to. And as
going to be running Ringgras from Danheim in the background with hopefully no more commercial interruptions because I did fast track through everything. So there we go. So the album should be sitting there on a bed. I want to make sure it's visible. And meanwhile, I'm over here. There we are. There we go. Alright guys, so I really wasn't in the mood for Heidegger tonight. But I thought to myself, I kind of felt like re-uploading my old shit. But I said to myself, you know what? I've had enough of all that. I'd rather just do it again. So I'm literally going to repeat myself as me, as opposed to who I was when I originally made them. So I am going to do my best to do the Old Norse alongside it, and we'll go for a little while and see how it goes. Fjols bid ek allar, neri och mini, viltu et ak velfader. Fon sur fira, helgar kinder, moger heimdalar, vel fyr telja, det fremst man. I've been hearing from all holy whites, the greater and lesser of Heimdall's children. It is your wish, thou Father, that I speak the old spells of the world, the earliest I can recall. So, there's Odin and Heimdall are the subjects of this stanza, which is telling us that this whole thing is about the primordial times, and you have the greater and lesser of Heimdall's children. And so that kind of implies the hierarchies of Heimdall, which is the saying people of all classes, right? Because Heimdall has the three classes associated with it. The uppers, the lowers, and the middles. The lowers being called thralls, which, being called a thrall is an insult. It means that you are a lesser than servant, right? And Heimdall, it is said that Heimdall made men these ways, which is not to be interpreted a certain way, because you're also not doomed to where you're at. It's fluid. It's giving you a perspective for yourself to understand that there are people that step into different places, right? You see all three of Heimdall's kind through the life of Amleth in the Northmen. He is a prince. He starts his life as a Jarl, if you will. Then he loses his kingdom, but he's still a free man. He does as he pleases. Granted, he has to change his identity because of the wrongs upon him, but that's not relevant right now. But he's a Jarl. Then he gives himself over as a thrall. He sacrifices his status. And this god does not get mentioned enough, and some say that Heimdall may in fact be kind of like, it might even be the one above all. I enjoy having my horn and reflecting upon thoughts like that. They specifically use the Val Father as the epithet here. So this isn't just talking about four people of Odin. This is about the valiant people, the valorous people, the brave, the ones who truly live their lives. That is the Val. Slain was a context it was shifted to in the Viking Age. And you are meant to be kept in a mind trap that doesn't understand the context. Because if we were that zealot for the entirety of our species as a tribe going back into antiquity, we would not have made it this far. Its meaning had to be something more rational, because we lived very rationally before it. And who's to say how we would have lived with or without Christianity in the way, which was the instigator of it. 2. Ak man jotna, tha forvumik. Nu man ek hema mjot vid meren. Ar umborna feda hofa nil Ividyor, Fyr, Mol, Neven. I recall the children of Ettins, who in the days of yore brought me to life. I recall the 9 worlds, the 9 steeds of the glorious Metting Wood beneath the ground. In the days of yore brought me to life. So this is the Voluspa, right? It's explaining that I am not human. I am a child of these powerful beings, right? The greater Jotuns are a different kind of ilk than some of the lower, later ones that are not as important as the big guys, right? There's nothing inherently evil about Muspelheim. Muspelheim is also a place that a lot of people give their energy to and move a lot of fire magic, often with wrathful intentions. And thus, that's one way in which you can end up dealing with various hostile spirits. Netting is just kind of the same thing as meeting, right? This is kind of like just meeting in Midgard. It's basically kind of like about Midgard, if you will. 3. Arvar alda vera sanda nese, Fjord fansk eva gap vargununga, that ekivar neskera uner ne ufinin engras hevergi. It was in the earliest times that Ymir dwelled neither sand nor sea, nor cold waves, nor earth were to be found. There was neither heaven above, nor grass anywhere. There was nothing but the Nunga. Now remember here, there's a couple different words that contextualize for earth. Jord was the Jord or Jorth, perhaps. It's actually Jorth, the way that that's particularly spelled. So whoever did this in right, see, this is why I talk about the difference, right? So is it Jord? Is it Jord? Is it Jorth? Is it Jorth? This is the problem. This is the fucking problem, right? There's a lot of this uncertainty, or there's been an academic who figured it out who was suppressed. And it becomes very, very hard to know who in academia is what, because the way the standards work out, an academic comes forward with an interesting new thing, and then he's not attacked like we see other people we like being attacked. Like, why isn't he being attacked? And the same bad guys are in charge. Why are they letting this guy talk? I mean, I want him to talk, but I find it suspicious, because what if he turns it around because he hasn't been attacked yet, and now he's roped us into some fucking bullshit? And sometimes you just have to go with it until betrayal. It's just what you have to deal with, right? This could be Andy, this could be me, right? Whether Loki's the good guy or the bad guy, having a fucking encounter with Loki, if it doesn't fucking teach you that, then if there is such a thing as a technically benevolent Loki, then he failed at his job, if you haven't fucking figured that out yet. So this is why there's all this leeway, and there isn't one fucking way to interpret paganism, and it's irritating to see fucking conservative and liberal pagans now, and it's all fucking thing that we all gotta fucking fight about. It's no fucking fun. We can't just all hail Thor together. But hey, look, it's alright. Obviously, we all need to fight. because we all need something to be valorous about. So, I don't know, what's your I don't know, are we getting into a sanctioned match over something we disagree with? Do I have to get my ass kicked to withhold my own integrity? 4. Atherborsiner der Ernirgar, Sir Skynsunen Thavar Grundgrun, Lodthum Ito Neren Gotha, Asela Stena Grena Loke. Soon Bur's son heaved up the earth. They shaped Midgard, the earth, the sun shone from the south on the stones of the stead, and green leeks grew from the ground. A while ago I had looked up the herbalism of leeks and symbolism of leeks. There's a lot of interesting stuff about leeks that goes into the antiquity with cooking, and so it obviously meant something to us for why we used it for cooking. And thus it was worth mentioning as a way to tell us something important about this early time, right? When it's saying Bur's head heaved up the earth, you know, that's getting into the whole bit with, there was Emir and Aldumbla. Aldumbla hadn't even entered the picture yet. But then there's more information that kind of goes back and gets to that, right? But Bur or Burry, which is probably where we get the word bury, because he was buried under the snow. Then there's Burry, and then there's Bor, B-O-R, which I don't know if that's exactly associated with the animal, the boar, which it might. It could be an allusion to Aesir Vanir gods. You know, I don't think that it's exactly right that Buri and Bor were other ways of saying it was there were different names for Odin under different context.
This is the emergency.
That could be true.
I keep them in my
but
compartment for
I don't think that
just like this.
I think that there's plenty of room for me to have my own place to stand on my feelings about it until I have a better relationship with the meaning of this verse, right? Five. Sölvarpsunen hendi ine hegri sotha nevisi mana that nevisi stionia that nevisu sinimana hinne hjogar hivar hon sale ati hivar an negen ati hivar ver stadi atu. From the south, the sun, companion of the moon, threw her right hand across the edge of the world. The sun did not know what hall it had. The stars did not know what stead they had. The moon did not know what mane it had. Not sure what they mean by mane, per se, right? The steads... The stars didn't know what steads they had. A stead is like a homestead, a home, a house, right? So this was a time before we were reading the stars and knew where stars belonged and where they didn't belong, as far as what we liked and didn't like when they were in the sky, certainly, right? Pre-astrology. So I think that this is about how Suni blocks us from the other stars, right? And I wonder what it means that what the moon did not know what name it had. is usually Mani Thatnavisi. Okay, that's where it's mentioning the moon over there. Okay. Mani Thatna, because that's Mani over there, that's the moon. Right? So those are interesting things to ponder. I'm not going to spend the whole stream pondering every little thing that comes to my mind when I read these. Six. Forgengo region o gin hela goth not och nidjon morgenhetu undorn och aftfan rockstola och umfat getox nofin gefo och nidjon dag arum et teja. All the region went to the doom chair. The Jinn holy gods mooted over this. They gave names to night and the new moons. They named midday, mid-afternoon, and early evening to reckon the years. So, right. So, this is my first time actually noticing what it's saying here like this. It's effectively speaking of... Hold on a moment, please. Okay. Yeah. Right. It's effectively speaking of... Yeah, the sun comes. This is actually telling the story that either the sun was different or the sun is new. This is not like I'm now just realizing that that's part of what's going on here. And this event was so monumental that the Council of the Gods, the holiest of the gods, the most powerful, they went to the doom chair, right? That just meant that they gathered to make counsel. This is the thing. They gathered to make counsel about something that has to be done, or we will not survive. That's the doom chair. And then we get that our understanding of the proper way to tell time in a tripartite system. Because they gave names to the night and the new moons. They named midday, mid-afternoon, and early evening to reckon the years. So, it's just interesting the way that works, and I'm trying to look here. You see, year in English is cognate to, in the rune, called Yera, but that's not the word. I don't see the word Yera in the stanza. I do see Telia as that last. Maybe Telia means the reckoned years. I'm not sure. That seems to be the only thing that got like Midyan, but that's Midyan Dag. So that's midday. Anyway. That's important stuff to look at. This is how you really put next level effort into understanding these oral traditions that we are interpreting from writing. 7. Gitosk e sefer erhog och hof afla lago tangerskop. Ai o veli hatimbrudu aus sniduo och torgerdo. The Aesir met on Ida Vale. High they timbered Hof and Hara. They founded forges and smithies. They shaped tongs and wrought tools. Ida Vale, Ida Vale has Vale in it. Vale, which is like Val, right? Ida Vale, so one could say Valhall is perhaps what's being spoken of here, or perhaps the place where Valhalla is built. Ida Vale. Or it could be some part of Svartalfheim, because they founded forges and smithies and shaped tongs and wrought tools. That's typically dwarf or elf work. The Vale could also allude to Vanaheim. These are all the realms that could questionably be Ida Vale. Eight. Tafidu itoni, vertheim vetergis unstrar havnun amat kermjok, tetir vero, vant orguli, versa mehjar och jotunheimon. They played tables in the Garth and were blissful. None of them lacked gold until 3 maidens came from the Thursons. Their might was awesome. They came from Ettenholm. So, the Thurses from Ettenholm, these 3 maidens, right? These are other vulva that this vulva's telling you. Like, she's a vulva, and then it's just an honest, it's just like, listen, not all vulvas are cool. I'm a cool vulva. These were some bitches I gotta tell you about. Right? It's like that. Nobody suspected her just because she was a fucking vulva. Because she was a vulva from somewhere else. You know, just like in the Northmen. The vulva in the Northmen was also the Slavic goddess. Right? You know, there was a totem to Mavon in the temple where he meets the vulva, and she specifically talks about how he slaughtered her people. Vulvas are not a figure of worship. She's a figure of worship. And at the end of the day, ultimately meaning that was Mavon the goddess, which was what made that role super fucking awesome. Alright. So they played tables and such. Hey, what up, Aim Bear? So this is just setting up the scene of just like, this is, life is cool. You know, here in our story, by scene 8, everybody figured everything out. Nobody had beef with anybody. Like, the Aesir and the Vanir were cool with each other. Jotuns didn't really quarrel with any of the gods. Like, this was like Golden Agey kind of shit. But then Thurses showed up. Right? They didn't know where they came from other than they came from Ettenholm. Right? Bad guy comes from faraway land and starts talking shit. I may have to take a break, I'm not sure. 9. Bagengo region yol yen hilagof. Ivar skilvi de verga or brimis blodi. Rockstola och umtat gretask Stråtirskepja och Orlenslegel. Then all the region went to the Doom Chair. So, by stanza 9, we've come back to the Doom Chair. We were at the Doom Chair at 6. Then they figured it out. And then Thyrsus came. So first there was a natural disaster kind of situation and the sun changed. Then, verse 9, foreigners that were the powers of great spirits came into their home and caused trouble. Alright, we follow? We follow. Fantastic. Then all the region went to the Doom Chair. They held moot to say who should shape the Drighten of the dwarves, from Brim's blood, from Blaine's bones. So, this is getting into... this was after they slaughtered the Jotun Emir, that first Jotun, to shape the world, and, would shape the Drighten of the dwarves, kind of like the father. It's the one whom they came from, if you will. I don't know the better context for why the word Drighten is there, but that's where the dwarves come from. They come from the corpse of Emir. And so this is what to do with his blood and his bones. His blood is the oceans, and I forget precisely what his bones are for. 10. Tarvar misonje, de verge allra fer manhelikun, de vergar a jordi metser, orden en duren anar borg, Urungerto Sandurin Sangve. There was Mitsagya, the greatest in speech of all the dwarves. But Durin was second. These dwarves made many man-like bodies out of the earth, as Durin had asked. So, this is the dwarves making more dwarves by building, right? They're kind of doing a spontaneous generation type of thing, right? This would be a process that you would see the kind of corrupted infernal version of with orcs in Lord of the Rings, the Orcai hybrids that are created as part of the, I think it's the White Hand is Saruman, and the Red Hand is Sauron. But anyway, it's the Fellowship of the Ring orcs that we deal with from Isengard, right? And you see how they're made, being pulled out of the mud with the roots and all the industry going on. That's part of the process. That's what's happening. All right, hang on. There we go. Alright, here we're going to get into the names of all the dwarfs that made the progenitor first dwarves. Nahi nidi ostri vestri nar ok nan bivar bavar an ok anan nordri sudri althothier divalen Nipinger den, Bombor, Nori, Owen, Vilvitner, near and neithy, north and south, east and west, all thief, entranced, nar and nain, nithing, dane, bifor, boffer, bomber, nari, on, and anar, oin, and needful. Right? So some of these are obviously not translated. There's Nar and Name, right? We don't know what those are in English. We know what north, south, east, and west are. You know, we don't have an idea of Mir or Nithi. The N word has interesting connotations because of the Nothi's rune, right? So there's always, like, saying no is involved with that, right? Like, Nithing, his name is Nithing. Nithing, it's like nothing, right? And there's the emotional quality, or even a conceptual quality, right? North is almost like a concept that we have defined, right? And these things are all happening after a lot of the world has been settled. Like I said, with the first Doom chair, where they had to figure out what to do about what Sunidin putting the sun on, putting her light all over the fucking place, blocking out the stars, you know? So the next line, this is where you get a few more of the known Tolkien names. 12. Vegar at Geldaffer. Thrar och Thrain, ner och Mjerder, Region och Radsvider. Vindfare Thorin Deker, Viter och Viter, noch Teffi ek Väger, rätt und halda. Väg and Gandalf, Windelf, Thorin, Thror and Thrain, Thek, Lit and Vit, Nar and Nyrith, Region and Razvith. Now are the dwarves rightly listed. Alright. 13. Fili, Kili, Hefti, Vili, Bilinger, Broni, Freyr, Hornborni, Arvangar, Jari, Fundin, Nali, Hanar, Zviar, Wilder och Vöri, Breger och Loni, Ekensjavi, Fili, Kili, Fundin, Nali, Hepti, Vili, Hanar, Zviar, Wieling, Bruni, Bild and Buri, Frar, Hornbori, Freg and Loni, Orvang, Jari, and Oakenshield. 14. Nal Verga, Lonia Kingdom, der Sota fra Orvanga. Advalens Livi, Ti Lofarsteja, Salasteni, Ti Yoravala. I speak of the dwarves in Valen's host, to tell of their kind down to Lofar, of those who sought the abode of Orvang at Yoravalar from the stone of the hall. Tharvardropnir har hogsfari, dori ori, skirvene verfer, och dothrarir, hevangerir, loi, dofer andvari, skafidir ai. Draupnir was there, and also Dogthraser, Har, Hogsdothi, Hevang, Gloi, Dori, Ori, Doof, Andvari, Skirvir, Vrivir, Skafith, and I. Draupnir was there. Are they talking about the ring, or was Draupnir also a dwarf? Because if Draupnir was a dwarf, then maybe Draupnir was not like literally like the name of the ring, but Odin had the dwarf Draupnir as his servant, and it produced more rings for him. It produced gold rings. He ordered it to do so. That might be what's going on. 16. Elfar och Yngvi, fjärar och Frosty, tak mun upi, lämjästital, äckeskaldi fin och ginar, neven ur lifer lofershafat. Elfen Yngvi and Eikenskaldi, Fjallar and Frosty, Finn and Ginhar, the long line of down to Lothar will be known while men live. You see, that's You see, here's some meddling. Here's Eikenskaldi's on the list in 13. Eikenskaldi is then also in the translation here in 16. Translated, Eikenskaldi is Eikenskaldi. But why is in 13 Eikenskaldi is Oakenshield? Who's lying? Unless it's trying to say that the dwarf Oakenshield, and let's not think of the king in Lord of the Rings yet. But just the point is that the context here is the dwarves in Dvalin's host. We've already gone through this number of other dwarves in the upper side of the list, right? Because we're talking about hold on a second, I'm sorry. Right. So like the gods told all these dwarves what to do, and they told Motsognir, the greatest in speech of all the dwarves. So he was like the dwarven spirit of those who worked hard to speak well. But Durin was second. These dwarves were made many man-like bodies. Right, you know. And so, between Motsognir and Doran then makes all of these dwarves. And then it goes over here, I speak of the dwarves in Dvalin's host. And so, what they're just saying here is that Eikenskaldi also was one of Dvalin's. Not just one of the first dwarves, but one of Dvalin's dwarves as well. Right? It's like there's two different houses of dwarves. Right? Understand that. That's why we're repeating ourselves with Eikenskaldi. We're pretending that it's not Oakenshield. But at the end of the day, it has to be Oakenshield. Alright. 17. Umstrir famu Ulfgeir och Asker Fondu Ahlandi Ask och Emlu och vi livi Esir at Hussi lit meganda olaglossa From the host came three, mighty and powerful Aesir, to the coast. There they found an ash and an elm, of little might and lacking orlog. And so yeah, orloglossa, meaning lacking orlog. And orlog, he doesn't translate, funny enough. Orlog kind of roughly translates to original law, right? In Sanskrit we get the word dharma, it's the same thing. And so orlog, a good English word to translate it to, that may be a little bit easier than original law. Maybe say purpose, lacking purpose, right? So it was this ash and this elm tree, and they weren't doing much for anything, so the gods made something of it. Undtha neeto la nelepi undgaf odden logath lother o tho nehafo no lithgoder ongaf hener ochlitho goda. They had neither breath nor wit nor life hue nor manner nor good looks. Odin gave them the breath of life. Honir gave them the woad. Lothar gave them life and good looks. And so, Honir gave them the woad, and Honir is the blind god, the same one who's responsible for the mistletoe incident that got Baldur killed. But he's also part of a trinity that created the first mortal men, right? And so this woad, it's kind of this like the reason why the blind god has this to view as a gift, right, is because there's a special kind of spirit that drives the blind god, that comes from its blindness and how it lacks that perception of the world and lives its life, invokes its spirit through what it hears, what it smells, everything else but, right? It's kind of, it's the whole daredevil superpower, right? That's Honer. And so this is there's an innocence there with the blindness, right? It's almost a naivete in a sense, right? Or in its negative sense, it's a naivete, but it's their sense of wonder, right? It's that part of you that's capable of saying, I know that there's more to be known, right? Honor always knows there's more to be known because he can never know personally what the color of something was. He can never know personally what the precise shape of something is, unless he spent an extreme amount of time making a memory mark of it by running his hands over every inch of it. And you're just not, that's just not something that a person is going to let you do unless you are intimate with that person. It's either that or you're just letting them get a basic silhouette of you, which is not that far off from your imagination of someone who looks like you do, because you can obviously close your eyes and imagine what you look like if you had nothing to look at to compare yourself to. Well, because you've got these things dangling from your sides, these arms, you've got these legs, which are these two things kind of coming straight up that are holding you in gravity to the ground as such. right? You know that you've got this round head that kind of sits up here like this, like you'll be able to draw a silhouette of yourself at the very fucking least in your blind mind, right? You know, so there's a whole lot of that. Those things are associated with Honer. 19. Ask vet extandar har batamer osin Theðan korma dovar stendur Ífergrín heter Yggdrasil vita ári þers ædalafalla Urþrbruni. I know an ash that stands called Yggdrasil, a tall tree, wet with the white dews dripping down into the dales. Evergreen it stands over Earth's well. So Yggdrasil has a lot to do with the water, with waters of life because of the dew. And that dew drips and that gets into the well of the earth. The well of the earth is the well of memory as well. It's making it Mimir's well and associated with the raven Munin, one of Odin's ravens. From there, 20. Theðan koma mehjar, þjar orðimse, orðhethu eina. Skaru a skidi the logo aldaborim. Margs vitandi und thole stendar eder verdandi skud in ridju the lifkuro orog segja. And then Orlog pops up again, right? From there came 3 maidens deep in lore from the waters that stand under the tree. One is called Earth, the other Verdandi, and the third Skuld. Scores they carved, laws they laid, lives they chose. They worked Orlog for the sons of men. So like I said, purpose. Simple word for it. Purpose. And as I've said before, when I do my tarot rune readings and such, the Norns are not past, present, and future. Although that is sort of appropriate. The real meaning of their names is origin, evaluation, and conclusions. You know, skuld is where we get the word should. Verth is where we get the word worth. Understood? 21. In fact, before I read 21, I kind of want to keep going. I'm having fun. Let's, I want to do a break. So I'm going to pull back here for a second and, yeah, I want to do it. 1 second. Just going to go to this again. I've been on a kick for the Kavit Raven album by Vorduna lately. I have not given... I didn't give that album the longest hearing when it first came out because I had so many other things going on. And I knew it was good, but I had to really come back to it to really absorb how good it is. You know, especially because the last album was also good, but it was a very simple... It was a Vorduna album, but it was mostly just like Einar Selvik, right? It was just like mostly him on the harp. It was a very, very simple, like, watered-down project. But this one really works as a successor to the Ragnarok album. Anyway. Yep, that's what I'm talking about. Alright. Let's do it. 21. Fatman håndfåfig Gudväge och hållhaft Prisvarbrynado oft Oscar Först hemi Geron studo Hanna Brenndo Prisvarvora Thorhorn Innifi. I recall the first battle in the world. There, they stabbed Goldberg with spears and burned her in hers. Thrice she was burned, thrice she was born. It happened often, yet she lives. The first battle in the world, and then it happened often, yet she lives, right? These are like these three different times they had to destroy Golden. So they're just saying that, like, dude, we just went through, we had to go through 3 battles with her hordes, and, you know, we killed her every time, and she came back to life every time, right? You know, this was, you know, this was some sort of a witch queen, right? And she kind of has that, like, enchantress quality, right? You know, the reason why they made the enchantress character a female variant of Loki is because all of this makes perfect contextual sense. All of it makes perfect contextual sense in the scheme of Loki's purpose. And this has that association with what came with the corruption of becoming consumed with having more, right? It's like nations turn into empires because people want to bring in more than what their nation puts out. And so they swallow up provinces to exploit their resources in a way that they think is fair after their might is right conquest. And sadly, there's so much of that goes on that it becomes its own self-regulating excuse. Right? Like, we complain about how Europeans came to the Americas and fucked over their civilization. Like, dude, I'm not making fucking excuses for my forefathers' fucking treatment of people. But remember, you know, these were, you know, these people, they had to get these people willing to die to go after the natives, right? Because it's not like we didn't get, like, casualties. We just had overwhelming wins. It's just like, it was foolish of them not to get a little bit more technologically advanced. A pinch more, right? Without, you know, degrading their values. I mean, you know, we got all sorts of guys out there now, right? And, like, if there are many empires and we're a weak nation, empires are going to gobble us up in their greater game. That empire is going to come in and say, we had to conquer you because there's another empire coming anyway. Believe me, you'd rather be conquered by us. And this is why Loki shows up in Avengers 1. Right? Loki was actually trying to save the world by telling Thanos, I'll go handle all this shit for you. Spare Earth. That gets revealed a little bit later on, but that is something that I believe Loki says, like, I think he says it in Dark World, pretty soon afterwards, right? Like they needed to save that because it comes along with the knowledge that Thanos was the one above Loki in the first Avengers film. Anyway, and just remember this. As much as I loved how Loki Season 2 ended, in the real world, you don't want Loki in that place. That place is the All-Father's place. But Loki did a good job telling the story. He just had to take credit for it because he's vain. But that's Odin's problem to solve, not Loki's. In the world. Just remember. Alright. 22. Hidi hana hetu Voluspa. Save hon hivars honto. Evar hon. Evars til husakon. Viti hon ganda. Save hon hule irar hud. Alright, these were a little broken because of how much they had to pack into a couple of lines. So I'm hoping I read that straight. She is called Heath, who comes to houses. The far-seeing Spey woman. The wise Volva knew Gand magic. She understood Seidh. She played with minds by her Seidh. She was always dear to evil women. Heath has almost, like, the way it's described, right? It's just like your imagination gets to feel out what this means, right? In the way a poem works, right? In this kind of short form way of conveying a concept, right? And Hecate comes to mind. But also Medea, the Medes. So, then all the region went to the Doom Chair. So we're at the Doom Chair again. The Jinn holy gods held moot as to whether the Aesir should pay tribute, whether all the gods should have a wassail. I am sorry, I forgot to read that in the Old Norse. Thagengo region ol. Gin helogoth. Hivar skidu Aesir. Etha skidu goden ol. Rockstola. Och umthat getosk afraf. Geda gidi ega. Alright. So, a wassail. Pay tribute or a wassail. A wassail, I believe, is a fight, basically. You know, do we get to, like, wailing on each other? You know, do we get to cross swords at dawn? 24. Lega go Odin, that verum fullfig. Brotin var borvega, natuvaner gibsra. Och ett folk skott. Första hene vågar asse essa Voluspa. Odin sped a shot into the host. That was the first battle in the world. The board wall was broken, the fortification of the Aces. The fighting veins trod the battlefield. So, there's been a couple of these references talking about the there's been two of them now, right? So, there's the first mention of the first battle in the world, and this is the same first battle in the world, but it's kind of showing you a different side of the scene. Thagengo region o Yin he logos. Iverte healthy loftalta. Edo etiotans råkstala och omfatt gretos levi blandut åts med gifta. Then all the regions went to the doom chair. The Jinholy gods held moot over who blended the sky with poison and gave Oath's women to the tribe of Etans. So, who blended the sky with poison? Never really thought about, just wow, thinking about that. So, who poisoned the air? What was the meaning of this air being poisoned, right? Poisons like this have an association with Niflheim, right? Niflheim is almost one of the least talked about realms, other than in context to Aesjotin, and of course the creation myth. Other than that, Niflheim doesn't get much of a rap, but, this mist home, it's misty because of its edge in its closeness to Muspelheim. So thus the ice is melting, making it a mist. This is a toxic air. Odin is one of the only people that really, one of the only deities, that really is there. Can really be a part of that realm. He's got a certain thing that lets him sit in that. That's where he gets his frenzy and his namesake, right? It takes a long time to acclimate to being in a persistent poisoned state, to get the benefits of transmuting the poison. Okay. (26) Thor Eintharva hon skadien sitter gengusk edar men all meginglig Trungin modi han skit freken orth och seri mederforo. Thor was then swollen with rage against the foe. He seldom sits when he hears of such. Oaths were broken, and then word and oath, powerful pacts made between them. Yeah, so Thor in his always has a righteous indignation about things of high value, right? Thor, like Tyr, are a little bit of Jupiter, a little bit of Mars in certain ways, right? And so Thor gets fucking pissy. He hates this kind of dishonor, right? It's why Loki can make him so fucking angry. (27) Vet hon handalar und hedvono se hon asask vedi velfoder hufjoth fulgit helgum badni orgum fossi vituth in edehivat. She knows where Heimdall's hearing is hidden. Under the holy sky, scraping tree. Over it flow the watery falls of Valfather's pledge. Do you want to know more or what? 28. Ein citron oti, I younger esa, heves fregnit mig. Earth vit och Odin, I Ino mera dreka mjodni mer. Af vedi vårfader. Det in öldikon. Och egoikt. I vet. Fridstith min. Hivar thu. Overfelt. Minst Rune morgenheveren. Vitund en ed. What? She sat out. Right, this is, so, sitting out, uti seta, right? The uti is the out, right? To sit out is uti seta. It doesn't say uti seta, but it does say ein sat uti, right? So, I'm not sure if ein is she, I think so, but sat out probably alone is hon. But anyway, she sat out all alone there, where the old one came. The awesome ace looked in her eye. What do you ask of me? Why test me? I know well, Odin, where your eye is hidden, in the water of Mimir's well. Mimir drinks mead each morning for Valfather's pledge. Do you want to know more, or what? $29. Vel hen herford. Fick fjol späklig sehon vitt och omvitt. Ringa och men oxfaganda av verod heferga. Heveria. Father dealt her rings and a necklace to have her spells of spay and spay magic. She sees widely over each of the worlds. Hold on 1 second. I want to go back to 27 for a moment, right? Because I wanted to think a little bit more about the Heimdall part. Because like I always say, Heimdall is a little more underrated. Right? Because we don't understand him so much, right? Like, not a lot of people understand someone who invokes Tyr. They understand people even less who invoke Heimdall. Right? You know, like, all they know about Heimdall is that he's Idris Elba, a black British guy guarding a bridge. But anyway. She knows where Heimdall's hearing is hidden, under the holy sky-scraping tree. Over it flow the watery falls of Valfather's pledge. Alright, so we're talking about Heath. That's right, so Heath, this particular witch, knows where Heimdall's hearing is hidden. So, who's it hidden from? Is Heimdall hiding it? Or did Heimdall lose it? So, this is also a nice little detail, because probably why this first war happened is because Heimdall couldn't hear it coming. It was something to be heard first in order to be stopped. He did not hear it. Very, very interesting and very specific thing. Who talks about that? Nobody talks about it. Who has an answer? Where's Heimdall's hearing in this story? What did he do to it? Allegedly, maybe it's got something to do with that next stanza where there's the well of memory, right? Did Heimdall's hearing go down the memory hole? Is that the implication? You know, you drop that bomb and then you don't elaborate. Unless there's further elaboration down the line, you don't know how to react to them. Anyway, I wanted to get all that out because, you know, I had to go back and realize I did miss something. That's what I missed. That's what I'm here for. Sehon velker govar att rida, skolhelskidi, goner hide gondel, nu eruteldar gorvar att rida, vitt till gothjothar en skogel, unar och geskogor noner herrens grundvelkur. She sees Valkyries coming from afar, ready to ride to the Gothic coast. Skuld held a shield, Skogul another. There were also Bruna, Hild, Gondor, Gerskogul. Now Hurjan's maidens are listed, Valkyries, ready to ride. Skuld held a shield. This is one of the Norns is involved in this war. The Norn of what should be done. Should and shield. Practically the same word. And look at over here. Skuld held skildi. Skuld held skildi. Things are so... works such a way in point. For all we know, skildi is another effing, like, Jotun. And not just a shield, but like a Jotun's name means shield. And maybe that's lost in translation. I mean, I doubt it. It's probably not. But you have the one who tells you what should be done as your shield maiden. Your should maiden, your shield maiden. Right? That ought to tell you something. Right? Part of the cute romance that the neo-pagan has, and any pagan man who's got half a boner is, you know, looking for a wife who's a shield maiden, right? You know, a woman who's got a fight in her, a battle-like quality, a little bit of the war goddess Freya, not just the love goddess Freya, right? This is a big part of what we're looking for. Anyway. $31. Exalbaldre, Ovent Bani, Skod vaccine. Vaccine? What is vaccine? I have to find out what vaccine is. Bjor och mjog fager, blodgum tivor, olagfolgen, volum heri Mistiltain. I saw Balder, the bloodied god, son of Odin, his orlog hidden. It stood and grew high among the trees. Slender and fair, the mistletoe drew. So, okay, it stood and grew. Stod wachsen? Is that what it is? Is Voxen could be grew? You see, Okay, so you know what? I'm going to admit a little bit of embarrassment. I think I've been reading it wrong. Because this looks better. Exa Baldri. I saw Balder, right? Blodgum Tiva. The bloodied god. That makes Blugum Tiva. Yeah, Tiva is something. Yeah, Tiva's another one of the epithets meaning a god, right? So then, Odin's Bonnie, Olaffolgen. Yeah. That's what it is. It's so weird the way the way they break up the stanzas as such, and it's hard to tell when you're not normally speaking Old Norse. From this point forward, I will be speaking it properly. So I'm going to read this line again. Ixabodri Ludguntiva, Odin Vani Orgunfull, Stot unvaxen volumheri, Mjor och Mjogfägar Misilti. Alright. So, vaxen means grow in Old Norse. It means grow! That sounds like a lovely word. V-A-X-I-N-N. Vaxen. So we're inverting speaking to ourselves in Old Norse. Subconsciously tricking you by telling you you're going to grow if you inject this in. That's what these sick fucks do. Anyway. 32. Varf afdemig merasinisk. Armflog hetli. Hodernam skota. Volders frodervar. Or vorins nema. Sane odersona. Anna tervega. Alright. What seemed glorious when on the bows turned to a deadly dart when Hoth made his cast. Balder's brother was soon born, when only 1 year old Odin's son with vengeance. Right, this gets into the whole thing about Odin has a son called Revenge. His name means revenge. That became a big archetype for, like, you ever met a guy who just, like, I gotta fucking kill this guy, this motherfucker. Like, nobody insults me like that. I have to beat the hell out of them until I feel not embarrassed about what you just said or did to me. Right, that's vengeance. And all this over Balder's son being killed by blind treachery. Hoth being another name for Hodin, the blind god. 33. Thohan Evahind, ne Hofud Kende, Ether a Bal Umbar, Balders Anskota, en Frig Ungret Aefesolum, the Vahalar, Vetu en Ether Vat. He never washed his hands nor combed his hair until he had borne Balder's foe to the pyre. Frigg wept in Fensalir for Valhalla's woe. Would you know more, or what? 34. Fachna vali, Vigbonsnoa, heder haro hader hoft or thrumum. Then Valley wound far fetters. They were real strong bonds made of guts. Yeah, so then Valley's wound wore fetters. They were real strong bonds made of guts. I'm trying to think about how that works, right? Valley is, no, Valley, that's, okay, we're talking about Loki's child, I think. Because Loki is strung by his own kid's entrails, right? Because right now we're talking more, we're doing creation stuff, now we're like in Ragnarok stuff, right? Death of Balder, Loki's wound by his son Vali's entrails. So anyway, 35. Hofsaholiga under Hevelundi Lechansliki Loka Apekiam Farsiter Sigon Fegi Unsinum Velvel Lehiod Vituth ein Ethahwa. Let me get this word right. It's the or what, right? Ethahvat. Ethahvat. That ought to be it. She saw one lying in bonds in the grove of kettles. It was the hated form of guile from Loki. Sigyn sits there, sad by her husband. Do you want to know more? Right. So this is all Heath, right? We're still on Heath. Like, I think that's the thing. Let me actually go back, because this is interesting to me now in better context. Well, the first battle. No, go back. Let's just go Heath. Right, okay. See, here's what I think. I think that Heath is kind of like a reincarnation of Golden. Because it's kind of not made clear, but once you hit stanza 22, all of this is, that's why it keeps just saying she out of context. All this is about this bitch Heath, right? And so when we're talking about all this story, there's actually the context of this particular female spirit. This is a particular female spirit, right? It's a spirit thing. It's a nature thing. It's not even saying and a woman chooses to have this. It's not just something that like a woman is born to the disposition of, right? All of these particularities are like habits, choosable habits. Anyway, let's get back down over here. All right. $34. I'm sorry, I already read that one too. 35. Read that. 36. Efel osten itrada. Soxum oxvedum. Sliver hetersu. A stream of saxes and swords flows from the east through poison dams. It is called Sliv. A stream of saxes and swords. Well, saxes is, I'm assuming, soxum uk sferdum is what I'm assuming is Saxes and swords over here.
Offers 24 times
So,
stronger protection than the industry-leading synthetic.
I'm trying to make any form of sense here. It is called Slith. See, I don't know what a Saxum or Saxes is in context, right? That's the tricky thing. Chrisholm is you have to have a little bit of an education in terminology going into Chrisholm in his particular choices, but they're great choices because it just sounds awesome, and it's understood to be a fairly proper word for it, right? So he had a good sense of poetic proposition himself. Okay, 37 in a row. You're welcome. Stóð fyrir norðan nýta volum sælar og júli sínra etar enar stóð óbúlni björsalar notens ensalar bremenhet. A golden hall stood in the north, on the vales of Nitha. It was the dwelling of the tribe of Sindri. Another stood on Makani. It was the beer hall of the Ethnic. And of course, Sindra and Brocker, sorry, Brocker, and Sindra, they're the ones that Brock and Sindri, they forged Mjolnir. Alright. 38. Salsa Holstanda, Nostrondo e Pala etro for... I'm sorry, I'm reading it the dumb way again. Salsa Holstanda sulla fiari, Nostrondo a Noder Horfadir, Pala etro for o Gloria, sa undin särar orma higla. She saw a hall stand quite far from the sun on Nostra. The doors face north. Drops of venom fall into the smoke hole. The hall is wound with the spines of snakes. Sahonthar Veda, Tunga, Stama, Min, Mansvera, och Morvel, och San, Ernas Leper, Irivel, Thar, Såg, Vithoder, Nej, Fringing, Sve, Verga Vera, Vituth in, Efefat. She saw there oath-breakers, murderers, wading the swift streams. There were also those who deceived the female advisors of others. Vidha, such dead bodies there, and the warg rips them apart. Do you want to know more, or what? Right, so this is the like that's the actual this place here that's being spoken of. She saw a hall stand quite far from the sun on Nostra. The doors face north. Drops of venom fall into the smoke holes. The hall is wound with the spines of snakes. There's a Loki element to this here. She saw there oath breakers and murderers wading the swift stream. Right? Like oath breakers and murderers, right? People that are not good at their word and people that would rather take a life then follow the higher laws of man. And then there are also those who deceived the female advisors of others. Which that's a very interesting specification. And so there's a lot of context I don't understand that would have made sense back then to what that means. That's still an idea that needs to be a little bit unlocked through understanding the culture at the time, right? Because this is specifically like talking about something this is like mortal shit, right? Mortal shit that is part of the landscape at stake with the affairs of the gods. That's some context to understand. All right. 40. Ostersat in Ölda. I jorn vidi. Och fedithar feris kinder. Verter af dem olom. Aina nokor. Pongos tugare atros hami. The old one sat in the iron woods in the east and raised the brood of Fenrir. The worst one of them all shall take the sun in the shape of a troll. So the old one sat in the iron woods in the east and raised the brood of Fenrir. So this is talking about. So this is talking about Hati and Skål. And the ironwood. Old one sat. Yarnvidi? See, I'm trying to get an idea of which word is the ironwood. That makes sense. Sat in. So I guess sat in Old Norse is also sat in English, really? Is that what I'm looking at? Austr in Aldna? Like sat in and sat in are the exact same thing. Sure, why not? So Oldna would mean the ironwoods. In the east. No, Austria is the east. Okay, here we go. See, this is how you fucking learn, guys. Austria is the east. Okay. In the east, sat in Eld. Iron. Old one sat in the east. Ironwoods in the east. Okay. East sat. Because I want to say Aldna is old one. So then yarn mean like. All right, I'm not going to dwell any more on this, but you see, this is the work that needs to be put in, right? It's why we go back to these things. This is how you level up on what it really means to look into something like we don't even consider this quote scripture. And anybody who's turning this into scripture needs to like suck a dick, because we need to not make this kind of shit holy. I mean, there's deliberate foul language in here, right? This is not about being a holy script. This is about being an effective way to convey a message to a people. Period. 41. Filist forvi, Fegraman, Leider Ragnasiot, Rothum Drera, Svot Verda Sulskin, Usumer Iftir, Veder ol Valind, Vituth ein Edevat. He fills himself on the flesh of dead men, reddens the seat of the gods with gore. The sun turned swarthy in the following summers. The weather grew entirely shifty. Do you want to know more or what? So erratic weather patterns arise, and weather patterns are really about erratic moods in the people. That's what's really going on. This is about mood swings. People are going through erratic mood swings. And so we're kind of, we're very much talking about Hati over here, right? The worst one, the hater, the hate that swallows the sun. And it's going to continue to talk about it. All right. 42. Sat dar e hagi oxlo horko. Gigar hiver ladre egter. Gol honom. A galvidi. Fagros de hani. Sa e fjall heter. He sat on a howl hill, strumming a harp. He was the herdsman of a giantess. He was the glad Eigthith. The fair red cock called Fjalar sang to him from the gallows tree. Yes, the fair red cock called Fjalar. Fjalar is also the name of the shouting dwarf, who is part of the team with Fjalar and the Whisperers, the Shouter and the Whisperer. Fjalar and Fjalar and Valar? Fjalar and Yowler? Fjalar and Yowler. I think it's Yowler. Anyway, it's the Shouter and the Whisperer, right? This is the Shouter. Sang to him. So the cock Fjalar is on the gallows tree, which could also be another epithet for Yggdrasil, or perhaps some say the Tree of Life is different from Yggdrasil, and so with the death implications, it's that. But it could just literally be both. So he sat on a hill strumming a harp. There was the herdsman of a giant. Like, so no, we're not talking about Hati here, right? And it's not Fjalar. Fjalar's another character that's associated with it. The Glad Egg thing. Lather egg that is up there. So yeah, there's a lot more to be known about that. There's not too much more that I know, but the idea that Fjalar is associated with of what we're hearing about just in the prior stanza about Hati. Obviously, this is about going through the roads gathering at this point in the poem. "43. Gulam esam gulim kambi, se veker holda at heria foders in enar geler 4 jaar neven, så tråder hani at holum helja." Gulankambi sang for the aces. He wakes the heroes of Warfather. But another sings beneath the earth, a soot-red cock in the halls of hell. So, the soot-red cock in the halls of hell, is this like literally a completely different cock than the fair red cock? It must be fair red versus soot red. Those are probably distinguishing characteristics of two very different entities. Soot red. So hold on a second. Let me see if I can find fair. Fargarhani, right? Yeah. Okay, so Fagro Ferhani would be fair red, and then Sothroderhani is soot red. That makes sense. And although Helheim and Muspelheim are not the same place, Southroder is like Surt for Muspelheim. I think that there's an association there because Surt is a spirit of entropy. 44. Ger nu garmer mjok fester mun slithna fjoth vit ekfreda un Ragnarok. Fi gingo hele in freki rema frem se ik längre romsitiva. Garm pays loudly before Ganipa cave. The bonds are sheared and he runs hungry. I know more lore, yet see even more. A Ragnarok and a powerful victory, Tivar. And Tivar, of course, we're talking about gods and like powerful victory gods, right? Like these are the gods that win the Ragnarok. Odin is not one of these victory gods. Thor is not one of these victory gods. These guys go down as they must. 45. Breda munu berjask, och åt vonom verdask. Mono sistongar, sisionsvila, hart ahene, hordomo mikil, skegol skalmold, vindol vargold. Oh, I'm sorry. Hat Elehimi, Hordo Mormikil, Skego Skalmuld, Skildir, Klochmir, Vindol Vargol, Ether Verol Stefisk, Mun Ingi Mater, Orom, Thirma. Brothers shall battle one another and fight to the death. Sisters' sons bring ruin on their sin. There is hardness on the world and great whoredom, an axe age, a sword age. Shields are cloven, a wind age, a ward age. Before the world falls, no man will spare the other. Kind of makes me think about how we're living in these times where You know, a lot of us are just... Because we're going so deep into the weeds... and our convictions that are guiding all of us as we go into these deeper weeds about the meanings of things and where our values are at. We're not at our throats, but perhaps this is the divide before we're at our throats. Do people that are no longer associated with each other today find themselves in a fatal war? I don't mean fatal as in you're going to die, but I mean just you're fated to fight each other, right? You didn't even think at the time that things were going to devolve into a civil war, let alone a former best friend being on the other side of that war. So you can't believe the way the issue evolved, and you can't appreciate the other side's point of view, right? Loki Season 2 tries to make you think that Loki is the guy who does this at the center. In the Marvel Cinematic Universe, he is. Congratulations. But in the real mythos, it's Odin. Keep that in mind. It's always Odin. Or it's always Thor. Anyway. 46. Leka mirsi at una gala hat les hendala me. I'm reading it bad again. Leka mirsina in miotuthar hidvis at una gala yalla horn hat les hendala horn alofi nehwe oden Gith means Hofi. Nim's sun split. The meter will be set alight. Heimdall blows loudly on old Gjallarhorn. With the horn aloft, Odin speaks with Nim's dead. Here's another stanza with Odin and Heimdall doing things together. Right, or not doing things together, but at the same time that Heimdall does a thing, Odin does a thing. There's a relationship in causality to existential reaction, right? Something happens existentially, Heimdall reacts and Odin reacts. So these two are often in lockstep. 47. Skelferigdesil astras standandi imer it ölnatre en jotun lossnar reddaskel äler elvelgum efre sturtrthan sefi og glipe. Yggdrasil, the standing ash, is shaking. The old tree howls. The Etin is loose. All who walk the hell roads are terrified. Right before the kin cert swallowed. So this is one of the big catastrophes of Ragnarok is when Muspelheim overcomes Midgard, which is the heart of Yggdrasil, burns it to the ground, and the continuity of the other 8 realms falls apart because Midgard has fallen apart. We're living on Midgard. This is the manifestation. This is the prime material. We're a product of it. It also has the divine potential of reaching into it. And that is why Midgard is where it's at. Stop bitching and complaining that it's hell on earth. You are bringing your own hell to earth. and then we have to deal with all the external suffering of it. It'd be nice if you would pick up the slack. Thanks. Forgive me, it wouldn't be nice. That would insult your intelligence. It would be kind of you. Thank you. 48. Je vet med asun, je vet med elfun, gnir eller Jotunheim, eser rå fin, stinja dvergar, fyrstendrum, vägbergsviser, vitud in etherfat. How fare the aces, how fare the elves, all of the Etten home is in an uproar, the Aesir met in things, the dwarves groaned before stone gates, masters of the mountain walls, so do you want to know more? What? Well, I'll tell you what I want. I want to take one more break, and then we're going to finish this darn thing off. So, yeah, we're going there. All right. Hang on. Hold on. There we are. That's what I need. Thank you. Alright, let me just get through these commercials. It's a lame night tonight, but that's okay. It's all about the replays. I do this not for the turnout during the live stream. All right.
Draupnir. Geiri, Freiki. Sleipnir. Gungnir. Hekole, Ronan og Alfa ver heitir
Wait, let me make sure I'm going good. Hemer eker osten, hefis glinde fina. Snisker jormen ganger, ei åtent moder. Omer kiner uner in eri chachar. Slifrer nati lifod, neger forlost. Prim fares from the east, bearing a linden board. The word Jormungandr is engulfed by an etage and churns the waves. The eagle screams, and its pale beak is cutting corpses. Naglfar is loose. So Naglfar is the ship that brings the dead, right? All the peoples, that you see in actual place of punishment, right? These are people that, they've got a bloodthirsty vendetta against everything. All this negative, unresolved human emotion. I think when they're saying Hrimir, I think that's Thor. I'm not sure about the Linden board, but because we're talking about Jormungandr, that's why I think we're talking about Thor, and the Linden board maybe is Mjolnir, right? Churns the waves, the eagle screams, right? The eagle. So there's the eagle that sits on top of Yggdrasil because the situation is as dire as it is. The eagle has been stirred from its throne, right? I see the eagle. The eagle is associated with Odin, but it's more associated, I feel, with Tyr. Odin's got his ravens. That's his big association. as king of the gods, yes, he does get the eagle. But he's only king of the gods in winter. That's what people don't understand. Because they don't talk about Tyr much in the Eddas, because the Eddas really aren't much about summer. There's plenty of stuff in there about summer, but most of it's about the winter, which is the primary amount of time of your experience, right? So don't get me wrong, like, it's almost Odin gets all of this because it is so critical, because the winter is going to fucking kill you, so you get that much for Odin when you only really need Odin for like half the year. And then you go, and when the winter is over, you switch over to Tyr. Kjol Ferosten, Koma Muno Musfels, Ulovlider, in Lokistiren, Fara Fifelmigen, med Freki Eller, Them Brofer, Bailists Eithor. The ship fares from the east, the folk of Musfel come over the sea, with Loki steering, kinsmen of fools, fare with Freki, bailists. So Freki, there's Geri, and there's Geri, and there's Freki, right? Freki is frenzy. Freki is which is kind of like, because it's like frenzy, it's kind of like Odin himself, right? This is one of Odin's rules. Geri's greed. There's greed, and there's frenzy. The frenzied side of Odin, this is his nature in the fight, right? This is your fight or flight creature working here, right? This is a very, like, reptilian brain level wolf, right? Where Geri is the hunter. It's the one, it's just dog smell thing go. Cuts in and cuts in. So this is about the frenzy. This is about like there's no place for strategy right now. You just gotta. It's all over the place. That's what it's talking about, right? The folk of Musfil come over the sea. Fire is coming over the sea. There's a lot to be said about that. Granted, you know, in the mythos of it, you're basically imagining another ship akin to like a Naglfar, and then these fire Jotuns are on this ship, and the ship doesn't burn because it's one of their ships, right? It's kind of the imagination, because, you know, in the personification process that you're using, just the narrative when you see it, you're looking at these fire elemental humanoids on a boat, sailing over to Midgard to burn everything to the beach. 52. Surferfersun, Methvigalevi, Skin Afsverdi, Solvertiv, Gilvjord Gnata, in Giferrata, Hroda Halen Herve, in Hinum Hlofna. Surt fares from the south with the bane of branches. The sun of the slaughter Tivar shines from his sword. Crags shake and friends real. Heroes walk the hell road. Heavens gloating. Så kemer klina, hamrer anförfram, ådenfärd, vis ulfveka, en vanlig välja, grarter att sutra, da hon frigar för undan. Another sort of grief comes to him. Odin fares to fight the wolf, and the illustrious bane of Beli to battle with Surt. Frigg's lover will then fall. So, you know, it's interesting that it wants to use the association of Frigg's lover, right? And we make sure, oh, you know, Frigg's lover. It's just one of the ways you refer to her. Why are you picking that way for to refer to her? Right? You just need to throw in there, you know, the context. We could say it's the wife, you know, it's the husband of Frigg, right? But what you're doing is that you're invoking the goddess here, right? The goddess experiencing the loss. She's losing the one that uses his will for her. Right? That's what is going on. '54. Så kommer in is, vågar sig foda. Vidare vägar att vädri, letar han vägi i Vethrons wunderstanden, kjol till krarta, så väsnet foda. Then comes the mighty song of victory. Vidar, that's his name. To vie with the deadly beast. He struck to the heart of Hivethron's son, and so his father was avenged. Hivethron's son. Hivethron, I believe, is... I forget what it kind of etymologically means, but it's another way of saying Loki. Loki's one of Loki's sons. Or, you know, unless it's for Angrboda, but I'm pretty sure it's Loki. But anyway, 55. Jin lopti fer lindi hjarðar, gepa igs kjaptar ormse hedrum, mun Odinsonar ormi meta, vargse doada vidar media. The fierce jaws of the earth encircling worm gaped from the hills of the holy sky. Then Odin's son meets the worm. Vidar's kinsman slings him. So, I'm now realizing that a ward is an appropriate term for Jormungandr. You can call it a ward. Gaped at the holy sky. So Jormungandr was going to swallow the cosmos, effectively. Alright, 56. Þá kemur í meri, hógar hóðnjar, gengi Óðinssonar við orvega, drepur af móði, miðgar vegar, vonu halin Heimstóð ríðja, gengi fennuai, fjóðnjargur, nepjar frá naðri, nýð og víðnum. Then came the mighty son of Loth, the earth. Odin's son strode to fight against the wolf. Enraged, Midgard's ward dropped him. All heroes shall leave the homestead. Fjorgen's son strode 9 steps back from the serpent, not worried about fame. So I'm looking over here. So Foginjarbur, Fjogin's son. I almost want to say that's son, and then Bur. Remember how there's Bori, and then there's Bur, and then there's Odin? So Bur over here is in context of the word son. So Bur is like the first son. Bori being, because Bori is the first god. Then Bur is thus the first son.
Doch ohne Bart. Bis zu den Knien im Schlamm sie warten,
57.
sich immer enger und enger scharen,
Sulter Sorna,
sich in ihre
Sigrfold I
ob
var.
dem,
I verfa att hinni hederstjorn
klemmende Wald,
Geser emi och ödnera leker har
da
hiti
schlägt ein Ast,
vithimen
bloß ein Pilz
selfen.
im Moor.
The sun turned dark and the land sank into the sea. The bright stars fell from heaven. Stream and fire ferment.
So sind die Soldaten erfroren
Flames
und ohne
leap
Kraft,
high to
alles
heaven
durchnässt.
itself.
Dreie das Moor weggerafft. Doch, semper fidelis, immer treu, so folgen sie wahr
So
auf
of course
ihren
all of
Führer,
these things
den seinerseits
represent our
der
world
Kerluska führt.
as we interpret it, right?
Doch
The
plötzlich
sun turned dark,
des Waldes
meaning
nahende Angstgefühl
everything that
verwandelt sich
was obvious
in
to us
Menschengefühl,
is now
das die Cherusker
oblivious.
einem Pfiff
The
ertönen
land
lässt.
sank into the sea.
Und die Legionen
It's that sense that we don't have standing
aus dem
anymore
Schlamm,
in the
aus den
world.
Blättern an Boden und
The bright
Bäumen,
stars
aus Senken und Nichts plötzlich
fell from
unendlich.
heaven.
Germanen
The
schäumen,
weight of the
ein
world
Schrei,
finally
wie von 1000
crushes
Bären
us.
ertönt, der zu
Atlas
Tode erschöpften Römer
Atlas
Ängste nur
falls,
nährt.
right?
Unformiert
Steam
ihr trutzes Heer,
and fire
sonst zu besiegen, doch sehr
ferment.
schwer,
And now
ist
you're
nun
you're
beschließt.
surrounded by the intense elements of everything collapsing around you, perhaps from neglect.
Vom Schwert her graben,
Flames
der
leap high
Blutstrom fließt,
to
sich
heaven
in
itself.
tosenden Lärmen.
And of course, you're stuck in the all-consuming flame of it all,
Germani alle
because
bringen
this is you going through the
getarnt
blackening phase of the
hervorgestürmt,
alchemy.
den Trost zu Falle. Speere und Pfeile
58.
von Bäumen und Höhen regnen, die Reihen der Römer behende sich ebnen. Doch auch schwarze Gesichter gehen nach Valhall und
Gernu
Blut
garmer
und Schmerz
jok,
ist
ihre
allüberall. Es
gineppehele,
regnet Köpfe
fester
und Arme und
monslitna
Hände,
in
Blut
freki renma. Fjolvet ekfreda, fremse eklengra. Ragnarok, Rom stigtiva. Garm. My God, I read that already. I am so sorry. Wait a minute. The mighty...
Und im Lichte der Fackeln sieht man die Frauen, wie sie
Wait
berauben
a
die
minute.
Römer und finden den Mann, weinend,
The bonds are
den
shared.
Liebsten erkannt, der nicht
I could have sworn I read that already. That's what's
Es
driving me
versinkt diese
crazy.
Nacht
Hold on a second.
in Tränen
The
und Regen und
sun
Blut.
turned dark, right?
Kein Auge mehr lacht.
Doesn't it? I feel like I read that earlier. Garm bays loudly? Didn't Garm bay loudly just a few
Sieht der
stanzas
Morgennebel
ago?
seine Bahn,
Am I crazy?
so sind schon
No,
Wolf
he hungry now.
und Aar heran.
She knows much more, but I
Setzen
see
sich am
more of
unendlich
Ragnarok
geflossenen
powerful victory so
Strom
far.
und
Is this the
totes
same thing?
Fleisch
Ger Nugaram?
nun ihre Gier belohnt.
I think it's the same
Und
thing.
durch die Haufen zerfetzter Leiber wühlen schmatzend sich Reiter.
Yeah, 58 and that one are the
Baren
same
tote
thing.
Cherusker ziehend und Waffen vertrieben, die Gierigen fliehen.
Is it supposed to be like that? I've never noticed that before.
Und durch Flammen nass schwelenden Holzes vernichtet.
That's fascinating.
Nur die Römer bleiben.
Does anybody know the goddamn
Bäume in
eddas
Blutmord
that's
zurück,
attainable?
auf Altären geopfert,
That I would trust?
Stück für Stück.
Not listening to Crawford on this one, sorry.
Wotan dargebracht.
Not listening to Crawford on anything, if you ask me.
Im Schutze der Nacht.
Alright.
Und noch lange
59.
rauchen die Seelenfeuer, durch
Ser
die sich
hon
die Seele
upokoma,
erneuert. Und weit in Valhalla droben,
odrusina,
noch lange die
Hjorg or
Cherusker sich
Egi,
lobten,
Idje Egrenia, Falafosar, Figer or Ifer, Sa Efjale, Fiskeveder. She sees another rise up, earth from the ocean, all green, torrents flow, and the eagle flies above, scanning the fells and hunting fish. 60. Finask Esir, I Idaveli, och Umjodiner, mit Kandema, och Minaskerthar, Megendomen, och I Fulbunti, Fonjarunen. The Aesir meet in Ida Vale and talk of the mighty Midgard worm, recalling the mighty Doom and Finnbulti's ancient runes. And so this is like it seems like we're talking about post-Ragnarok reflection, meaning that the Aesir meet. This is the new Aesir. There's new Aesir and new Vanir in the Ragnarok. 61. Darmoni efter undern sannliga Gulnar Toflor Aigrasi Finmask Tres e Ardaga Ater Hofu. They will again find the wondrous gold chess pieces in the grass, those they had owned in the days of yore. The gold chess pieces.
where bears
I see Gulnar is perhaps the word gold.
religion houses dark
Like
spirits.
Goldveg, right?
A comet.
Gulnar Toflar? Is Toflar chess? I don't see any other word that looks like chess. Why did he say chess?
Rise in circles. Where drums roar.
Because Toflar could just mean game.
Water whispers white braiding.
Aigrasi Finask. I'm not sure, right? There's a lot to...
In
See, there's all these little details you don't notice, right? I've read the Voluspa maybe 3 times, right?
to dust.
This has got to be my 4th time.
Ice melts. The thoughts of the gods.
62. Munu Osanir Akrar Vaksa Bolsmun Alsbatna Buldermun Koma Bua Ther Hoder Och Bulder Hroths Sigtoftir Ve Veltivar Vetuth ein Ervavot. The unsown acres will then grow. Evil will turn better. Balder will return. Both Balder and Hof shall live in Hrop's victory hall, the work of the gods. Do you want to know more or what? Alright, so, I wasn't 100% sure of that before. So, Hodr does get a happy ending after his bullshit being punished for his place in the death of Balder, and then him and Balder get to have a good time on the other side of the disaster. 63. Thachra hener hothvid kjosa och borir bihja breria tivegia vindheim viden vituth ein i vad. Honir will then handle the Lotwood. His brother's 2 sons will live there in the wide wind home. Do you want to know more, or what? Okay, there we go. All right. 63. Oh, I'm sorry, I read that one already. 64. Selser honstanda, soler fekra, guli thakten, gimle, thar skulu divar, droter vigia, okum aldraga, in this nota. So Gimli, with gold in Gimli. Interesting, right? So she sees a hall standing fairer than the sun, thatched with gold in Gimli. There the worthy Drytons shall dwell forever in happiness. Yeah, I'm trying to remember. I'll have to look up Gimli at another time. And then I think this is the second time Drytons has come up, and I still wasn't sure what it precisely meant. 65. Tha kemur I riki, et regndomi oflugur ofan, sa olo hreiðar. Then comes the strong one, to the doom of the gods, the awesome one from above, who rules all. I'm going to come back to that. Hold on a second. Interesting. Okay, 66. Kemir in Dimi, Dreki, Fluyandi, the dark. Oh, I'm sorry. Neder fra Niden fra Nitherfullum. Berser I Fjordrum, Firgerful, Ifer, Nidhurgnai, Nu man Honsokvask. The dark drake comes flying. The flashing viper from underneath the fells. She sees Nidhogg carrying corpses in his feathers. As he flies over the valley, now she shall sink down. So Nidhogg is a female dragon. Nidhogg has feathers. It's a feathered dragon. Right. So, this is a plumed serpent. The Nidhogger is a plumed serpent from the underworld. I think that with the separation and with all the Jungian stuff, right? It's like the Bible gives us the wrong shit, right? You know, Satan and the devil are these terrible bastardizations of other types of things. Same thing with demons, and et cetera, right? In the original context here, it was important to have a very distinct way in which we talked about to really understand an embodiment of evil in a proper way as the defense mechanism against it, right? These forces that Loki comes with, like I said, it's the corrupted Loki situation. And it's the toughest situation, and I don't believe that there's any capacity for us to do anything about it other than to take care of ourselves in a manner better than our ancestors. And the rest will get sorted out. Because for the most part, at the end of the day, you have to be very careful about the offers that you accept. Because it is by those offers in which you're going to get the most harm. Because it is the least wise thing. Perhaps the most foolish thing that you are doing. So then comes the strong one, to the doom of the gods. The awesome one from above, who rules all. Who is this? This is the one line. Is this... Then comes the strong one? Who's the strong one? To the doom of the gods. This is all after everything's fucking settled down. Is this the one above all? Is this the one great being? Is that the invocation of this very simple and second to last stanza? How often are we talking about those details and technicalities when we're sitting down and we're analyzing with a scalpel what's really being said in these words? The Kemer Inriki at Rigendome O fluker ofan sa olohida. Awesome one from above who rules all. I mean, Olu? There's a lot of different words here that could
maybe
be the
you
word
feel lost. Maybe you
in
feel
general,
disconnected.
right?
Or maybe you feel nothing. What are you doing this Sunday?
Because, I mean, like, it can't be Odin. This is all about post-Ragnarok. Odin's dead, right? That has to mean something in this particular stanza. So it can't be contextually Odin. I don't even think it can be contextually Heimdall. But that's the thing. I don't think we got a name in here. I think it's literally being obscure because it is the entity. It is the one beyond names and beyond formal title. Is it one? I guess it's one. Maybe the male is one. The female is one. I don't know. But what I do know is that we got to the whole thing. Thank you so much for listening in. I hope the music was good. A little under 3 hours. Excellent live stream. Alright. I'm gonna let the rest of this song ride out. Catch you guys later.
Kifo, kumina Manum simple bydd on hite. Thon hi hin fyriath offer fiskes beth.